He did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a
Hello and welcome to the Theological Family Ministry Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping and equipping parents as well as children's ministry workers to disciple the children that are within their reach. We're glad you can join us today. That we're hosted by myself, Tony Trussoni, the family pastor in Westminster Baptist Church in Westminster, Maryland, as well as
Ben Pelaz, the family and children's discipleship pastor at Curtis Baptist Church in Augusta, Georgia.
Wonderful, Ben. How are you doing today?
Doing okay. Enjoying the weather's turning a little bit cooler, but it's still fairly warm out there. But get the reprieve at night. So, how about you?
Yeah. Doing pretty well. It has been quite warm as well up here, surprisingly unseasonably warm. It's been sad to watch the Orioles pretty much burn apart as well as the heat's turned up. The Orioles were pretty much leading the wild card about a month ago, and now I think they're leading the Little League division they're in. So,
well, yeah, the Braves are like 25 games behind. They have a shot at finishing in second place. But,
Yeah, that's impressive. So speaking of hot, though, that does really, when we talk about heat, especially in unseasonable times, I think of the heat of hellfire, and it makes me think of maybe a chick track that might be particularly terrifying. And I think that's a good reminder as our topic today is called Chick Track or Treat. Kind of a play on trick or treat. And we're going to be talking today about Halloween, the spooky holiday, and what that means for parental discipleship as well as children's ministry workers, and kind of hashing out some biblical and theological arguments related to Halloween as well as related to chick tracks. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Reformation, right?
Sounds good.
So with that, are you eating any candy right now as we're going to talk about trick or treating?
No, I have a peppermint sitting here on the table next to me, but haven't. It would not be good audio. So
okay, that'd be a good point. Now, what is your favorite trick or treat candy?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do like Snickers. I like Starburst, Skittles. I just try not to get into it too much because it's dangerous.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just glad you're not in anything vegan with that, which Oreos are, by the way. So.
That's true. Little known fact.
Vegan. Yes. Anyway, so for me, I think my favorite candy I might get on Halloween would probably be those Reese's cups. Halloween Reese's cups. I especially though like Snickers now has peanut butter cups. They have like a Snickers peanut butter cup, so it's kind of a combination of Snickers and Reese's and a best of both possible worlds. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Actually, I remember when we lived in Kentucky, we had a neighbor who came out with a bowl of European chocolates. I mean, these things probably would have been $2 or $3 a bar, and he had a bowl full of them. I thought, man, the kids are not getting that.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing. Yeah, anyway, now to talk about kids. Did you trick or treat or celebrate Halloween as a kid?
Yeah, I did. It was never a huge deal. We never spent like tons of money and decorated like crazy, but we put a costume on and went around the neighborhood and, had some seances here and there.
That's good to know. Pretty terrifying. So.
How about you?
Yeah, I definitely did as a kid. And some years, frankly, I think I did a little more tricks than treats. I won't go into details on that for the sake of not giving my children any ideas.
Could you get in legal trouble, or
perhaps that's possible? But but before Christ, I was known for that kind of antics. But indeed, I liked it, no matter if I was getting treats or if I was doing tricks of some sort. I liked Halloween a lot growing up. I had to get me my Butterfingers. I like Butterfingers the most, probably as a kid. They didn't have that amazing Snickers Reese's combination that is delicious yet. That great innovation wasn't invented quite yet. One year I was growing up, I did do a Halloween alternative. One Halloween, I think my parents were out of town and some kind of convention, and we were with my cousins, and their church kind of had a Halloween alternative rather than, I don't even know what it was called. It was something else other than trick-or-treating on Halloween night. In the other extreme, I remember one year in high school, I watched horror movies with a bunch of buddies all night on Halloween. So I pretty much run the gamut in celebrating Halloween.
Yeah, you had probably your experiences were wider than mine. Mine was pretty low key.
Yes, perhaps. So sometimes low key can be good, though.
True.
Do you do anything now with your kids on Halloween, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, we've dressed up and gone trick-or-treating around with the neighbors. A couple years ago, my daughter went to a parents' day out at a church nearby, and it was a big church, and they had a really big thing planned with hot dogs, and so we took the kids to that. It was nice, and one thing, just because she thought it was cool because she was getting to go to her little school. And then now that we've got family, that we live close to my family, we had a get-together last year at my grandpa's and made chili and hot dogs and that kind of thing, and then walked around his neighborhood, and then we went back to our house and handed out some candy there. So, again, low-key.
Yeah, that sounds fun, though. So for us, I think I did enjoy Halloween as a child. I know that for sure. But in some ways, I think I enjoy Halloween even more as an adult. I think it can be fun to help children to have that fun and to go along and see the joy that children are having. Since getting married, at the very least, since getting married, I've kind of done more of the trick-or-treating Halloween type stuff. In Bible college, I don't think there was a lot of that. People generally avoided our college, I think, for candy because I think they kind of knew there was a gamut of perspectives on that. Some more friendly to candy than others. But I think, since getting married, moving off to seminary, graduating, moving on, I really enjoy the aspect of even giving out candy to kids. Now, as the kids are getting older, I really do enjoy taking the kids out trick-or-treating as well every year. That, the funny thing with that is I actually also got to take Danielle trick-or-treating for the first time, and she was probably more excited about it than any of our kids have been about trick-or-treating. When we got married and we had our oldest, she went trick-or-treating for the first time. But we don't really do scary stuff with it. I definitely would never do what I would call the adult Halloween, and we'll talk about that more later probably. But just have fun with it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, is celebrating Halloween Satan worship? Should I be kind of put on a wood pile and burned because of what I do?
It may be close to it. I don't know. It might depend. No, I don't think it's Satan worship. And you know more about the history of Halloween than I do. But I think the reality, even some people think that is the history. I'm not convinced that it is, but most people today that observe and participate in Halloween, they're not thinking about Satan. Kind of like people today that are celebrating Christmas, or Easter, they're not thinking that much about Jesus either. So, no, I think it's a similar principle there.
Yeah. Yeah, I do know some of the history, and I don't want to get overly into it because the reality is the history of Halloween is extremely complicated if you watch it. There was a great special on the history of Halloween actually on History Channel one time. You might enjoy watching it. It goes into some aspects of it, but there's some aspects of which the history of Halloween is connected to the Catholic Church, especially the Irish Catholic Church. Trick-or-treating especially really took off with the Irish immigration to the United States. And so in a lot of ways it was originally seen, and the big celebration that we have now is traced more to Irish American immigrants than it is to almost anything else. But even then, there's certainly some satanic, there's some cultic and pagan rituals within Halloween, but there's also some things that trace to that All Hallows Eve, that All Saints, the connection to All Saints Day within the church for thousands of years. But it's just a really incredibly complex melding, boiling witch's pot, I guess one could say, of different history coming into it. So I don't think it's just inherently one thing or the other. Some people do celebrate Satan on Halloween still today, and certainly there are times in the past where false gods were celebrated on the day that we celebrate Halloween. But I think just as many kids might dress up as Buzz Lightyear as in any sense as exonerate Satan.
Yeah.
With that, I want to ask, we've established that it's not completely worshiping Satan, just, kind of 99%, I'm kidding, on Halloween. But are Christians then allowed to celebrate Halloween at all, Ben? I
think so. I mean, it doesn't bother my conscience at all to do it. And I think some of that's due to my upbringing. But even reflecting on it as an adult, I don't see that it's an issue. And I mean, just like I was saying a minute ago, most of the people that get involved in Halloween, they're not having a seance. It's just an excuse to dress up and decorate or have a party and eat candy and stuff like that. There are some dark elements to it, and some people do take an unusual pleasure in, turning their yard into a corpse factory or something. I don't know, just strange things like that. I don't quite get, but I think it is a matter of Christian liberty, and so people are free to do it. I think it's much more of a cultural costume day than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So I one passage actually I think came to my mind with this question is Romans 14, 1-6. I'll read it briefly, fairly long, so I'll try to go quickly. As for the
King James, right?
And the King James, of course. So, you got to use the King James to combat that Satanism on Halloween. As for the one who is weak in faith, welcome him, but not to quarrel over opinions. One person believes he may eat anything, while the weak person eats only vegetables. Let not the one who eats despise the one who abstains. Let not the one who abstains pass judgment on the one who eats, for God has welcomed him. Who are you to pass judgment on the servant of another? It is before his own master that he stands or falls, and he will be upheld, for the Lord is able to make him stand. And here, on verse 5 and 6 especially, pay attention. I encourage listeners. One person esteems one day as better than another, while another esteems all days alike. Each one should be fully convinced in his own mind. The one who observes the day observes it in honor of the Lord, and the one who eats in honor of the Lord, since he gives thanks to God, while the one who abstains in honor of the Lord and gives thanks to God. So I think that's a helpful passage. So I think in some ways it's based upon that, based upon other things in Scripture. God can be honored and celebrated through abstaining from celebrating Halloween, or God can, in a humble sense, I think, and God can be honored through us sanctifying the holiday. And I think in that we can sanctify even the bad parts of it, because I think clearly it's hard to deny. If you're doing seances in Halloween, you probably should stop doing that. And there are certainly bad things, but much of it we can, I think, use and promote for the sake of the gospel, and use as opportunities to get to know our neighbors and insert our gospel witness. And we'll talk more about that later. And I think a great comparison to that is Christmas. Reality is the far more pagan holiday is Christmas, if you look at the actual history. And and we can sanctify that in that kind of way that we sanctify Christmas. Christians can indeed abstain. It's okay if you're a Christian and you're uncomfortable with Halloween. Feel free to avoid celebrating Halloween. But I do encourage us to be careful of legalism, where the Bible allows us freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think maybe the big thing you're getting at is that we should serve vegetables just to be safe if we're going to hand out candy, right?
No. Yeah, I thought that deserves a simple response. Now, something that also might deserve a simple response. Do we have to hand out those terrifying chick tracts? I think of that we have someone that is a neighbor that moved away actually, and neighbor that loves the Lord and that is from a different perspective and does indeed give out good candy to kids. That always gives out these chick tracts as well, and some of them are pretty terrifying. I remember one that my daughter's gotten twice now. It shows a child painfully dying of some severe disease and then burning in hell afterwards. So do we have to do things like give out those terrifying chick tracts on Halloween?
I think the more terrifying, the better. No, I think if you want to give tracts away, certainly do that. I think if you're going to do that, give some good candy too. Don't give junky stuff, or only give those. I think you're just hardening people when you do that. But I don't think that it's just like I don't think it's on our conscience to evangelize every single person that we meet. Now, some people say you do. I think most people agree, though, that there's just a time to do that. You're not able to do that, or it's not wise. So I don't think so.
Yeah, I think sanctifying the holiday We should sanctify the holiday and use it for the sake of our outreach in some ways. But I think to sanctify the holiday of Halloween does not mean that we literally have to scare the hell out of kids.
Right.
And I'm using that word literally there. And I even think of other ways that it might be done. You know,